Hi, everyone. I'm Tamar Hermes, Chief Wealth Warrior at Tamar Hermes International, and this is the Wealth Warrior Summit, where experts are sharing how to save money, grow wealth, and reach financial freedom. Today, I am delighted to introduce our expert, Bill Simmons. Is that correct? I just
It
realized,
is.
I got nervous about not, I'll do it again because I got nervous. Hi, I'm Tamar Hermes, Chief Wealth Warrior at Tamar Hermes International, and this is the Wealth Warrior Summit, where experts are sharing how to save money, grow wealth, and reach financial freedom. Today, I'm delighted to be here with expert Bill Simmons. Bill is the owner of Thrive Business Strategies. He has been in business for over 30 years, helping individuals and entrepreneurs clarify their message and execute their visions. He has taught over 250,000 students on leadership and success, and has also negotiated deals in the tens of millions. So welcome, Bill.
Well, thank you, Tamar. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and to be able to experience this with your audience.
Thank you so much. Now, can you share for me, what is your basic philosophy around building wealth?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. And for me, it starts really with mindset, right? As a young man, at the end of when I got my first job, what did I really want? I just wanted money, right? And you really didn't think wealth. You didn't think about life creation. I got my first job when I was 12. So honestly, I was thinking about how to buy a pair of sneakers and how to buy some extra gum at the store down the street. And so as life has gone, the mindset for me of understanding that wealth is more than just finances. That's one thing. And that when it does come to money, that we must live in an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset where there is enough and I am enough to engage in that.
That's great. I love that. So you use that mindset every day when you go into work and with your clients to help them see, okay, what is it that you want to create? And then you support them in that vision while they're holding on to the idea that there's enough for everybody and that they're enough to have it.
Oh, yes, because I think what happens is that when we live in a scarcity mindset, our hands are gripped, right? We're always trying to hold on to. Where when I have an abundant mindset, my hands are loose and now I become conduit that money flows not just to, but through. Mm-hmm. Sometimes and I've even had to challenge my wife from time to time when there's certain things we want to maybe spend money on, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, is that really good? And should we do that? And my philosophy sometimes has been, well, sometimes we need to spend it so I can make room for more.
I love that. I love that. That's great. Now, speaking of an abundance of money, you've negotiated deals for multi-million, tens of millions of dollars. Now, is there a difference between negotiating a deal for $10,000, say, versus the multi-million dollars?
Well, honestly, Tamara, when I was younger, I used to think there was, right? But then experience teaches us new lessons. And what I have learned is that at the end of the day, the numbers, the amount of zeros and the amount of commas really don't really matter. It's the approach in which you go to it to really have a negotiation style that really wants what is best for everybody. If you approach negotiation in a win-lose attitude, and let's be honest, we have all been in negotiations like that, and if we're honest, we've always been contributors to that at probably some time in our life, right? And so, but when we can move beyond this consumer mindset of win or loss and have a contributor mindset that it's win or win. It's not win or loss. It's win or win. How can we really create opportunities that are mutually beneficial? Then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if it's a $500 deal, a $5,000 deal, a $50,000, $5 million deal. What's the best for all parties involved?
I love that. And this is also a great opportunity for any listeners that are in between. Obviously, all of us have businesses ranging where we're negotiating those 10,000 and the millions. And it's great to just look at, what's the result you want. I love looking at that. And I love the way you're saying that you're not really looking at the number. It's just that you're dealing with a bigger pie at that point, but you don't focus on, wow, that's a lot of money. You're focusing on what's the result that I want to create.
Absolutely. And I think that is, we don't want to tie our ego up to the numbers, right? And again, I can only say that because I have had the experience where my ego was attached to the numbers, right? And found out that at the end of that, I was never able to truly live up to those unreasonable expectations. And that's one of the reasons I try to say stay away from the win-lose attitude, even though we're talking about wealth and finances and negotiation. One of my favorite phrases is that it's not win or lose, it's win or try again. So if I don't tie my ego up to the negotiation, the value of the number, then it's, well, hey, we didn't win this one, we'll win or try again with somebody else.
That's great. That's a great attitude. And then there's always a possibility. There's always another chance. And from every single experience, I hear what you're saying, that you learn from that and then you go forward so that you don't have so much tied up into it. I love that. Thank you.
And learning is huge. So I have a little bit of age on me now. I've got some miles behind me. There's a bigger rear view mirror than I used to have, right? So I actually have a young grandson, and I love to spoil him rotten. Well, actually, we tell him he's not spoiled, he's blessed. But one of the things I try to give him little phrases that he has to repeat after me that are kind of little leadership axioms. And so one of the things I'll tell him all the time, and he'll have to finish it. I'll say, hey, TJ, leaders are, and he'll say readers, right? So that I have to be a reader. And one of the things I always tell him is like, learners are, and he'll finish it, learners are earners, pump up. And that is it. So when we're talking about creating wealth, creating opportunity, being conduit for money to flow, we must be learners, because at the end of the day, learners are earners. The things we learn in a negotiation that doesn't quite go the way that we want it to, we'll learn for the next experience, or what we learn in decision-making process as an entrepreneur and a business owner. That failure is our greatest teacher. So let's don't even feel failure, because learners are earners.
Right. I love that. I love that. Now, as far as you talk about cash flow, and, in businesses, in every stage of business, we all have cash flow issues that we're dealing with, not issues, but management opportunities that we need to look at with cash flow. Now, you say it's a great problem solver. Can you explain to our viewers what you mean by that?
So I really appreciate you asking that question. I've been around a lot of situations where sometimes people have a little bit of a passive approach to business and insecurity when it comes to money. And there's this mindset, and I'm sure you've heard it, but I'll have people, and I'm not even sure where it's intended to come from, but they'll make statements like, well, money doesn't solve all problems. And obviously I put a little attitude on that, the way there's this kind of, it comes at me sideways. And I have to be honest with you, I don't like it when I hear that, when people say, well, money doesn't solve all problems. And so my response is, well, name that problem. Right? Name the problem. Tell me what. Now, I understand that we're not trying to be greedy, right? We're not trying to live beyond our means. But at the end of the day, when you're a business owner, we want to have wisdom in the decisions we make, but money does solve problems. If I am maxed out at my own personal capacity and I need to hire help, well, what do I need? I need money. Money helps solve that problem. If I need tools to help deliver my service or product, I need cash to make that happen, whether that's cash that I've put in reserves or I'm able to leverage through borrowing with other institutions. I mean, joint venture partnerships. At the end of the day, money is a great problem solver. Now, again, it's not the end and all. We must have balance in our approach, but let's don't minimize its impact. I'm telling you right now, I don't have a problem in my business that several of thousands of dollars wouldn't fix, in my opinion, right? And so, so one of those things is cash flow. And I think as a business and entrepreneur is managing cash flow in growth. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been in a situation where your company is growing, you've made good decisions, you have more revenue coming in, but now all of a sudden you have actually less cash? The company has grown and I have less money. Now, when I hear that, I'm going, what the hell? I'm busting my butt making more money than I ever have, but I have actually less cash. And so we must be intentional on how we manage our cash flow so that we can be quicker to solve the problems in our business. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like, later on in the interview, we're going to talk about a system that you've put into place in terms of how to do that. So, what I'm hearing in that is also that you don't need to be afraid of inviting money in. That, it's not, you can run your business, but love your business and also love getting the cash in too. So don't be afraid to ask for it. Don't be able to create it, because it will solve problems in your business and it will be able to help you expand and scale. So I love that. That's awesome. Now,
I would say there. I'm sorry. I think the tag to that is one of my other leadership principles is excellence will solve problems more than extravagance. Right. Okay. And so, we don't want to just throw money at problems and be wasteful with that. And so let's be excellent with our efforts, not just extravagant with our efforts, because you can also waste a lot of money with that. And we are, at the end of the day, stewards of our businesses and stewards of the finances that flow through that for the purpose of growth and results. And so I don't want to give the illusion that I'm just saying, hey, you just go half-cocked at it. I think you have a purpose and an intention to operate with excellence.
That's wonderful. Now, for 30 years, you've been running this business. Can you share one of your biggest setbacks and how you overcame it?
Well, ultimately, one of my biggest setbacks, and I'm just going to be vulnerable here, is that I am honestly a recovering workaholic. And I'm not sure I've totally overcome it yet, but I am a different person today than I maybe was 4 or 5 years ago. But as a result, what I did in my worst version of myself at that just workaholic attitude was that I thought the hustle was what produced. Mm-hmm. Right. And honestly, it created in me a lifestyle and a schedule that was unreasonable, that other people would literally say of me, oh man, he is like Superman, right? I mean, they would applaud it. But internally it was very unhealthy for me. And so as a result, I've had a few struggles, a few breakdowns, honestly, where just physically I couldn't keep up with that, where I may have been traveling 12 to 15 days a month for years at a time, not just a couple of months, but every month for years. I probably lived life sleep deprived for well over 25 years.
Wow. And what was the breaking point for you? How did you overcome it?
Well, I think part of that was coming to the end of myself, right? And just realizing that that change had to happen. And most transformation for all of us begins with a new way of thinking, right? And so for me, I was definitely at a difficult time where I came to the end of myself physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, everything that was around me, and had to make some hard decisions about my business where I had to be able to, one, work smarter, not harder, and understand that my hustle wasn't the most important aspect, how hard I worked, because that's really what I thought generated money.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I had to shift this mindset from that of hustling for money to really having a mindset that shifted. And my mindset shifted of what my value was as a person and the things that and I had to shift where I was enough, right? And so the only way for me to have enough was I needed to be more than enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my mindset had to shift that, one, I am enough, that I have great value, and I contribute at a high level. And honestly, in 2015, at the end of 2015, totally transformed my business model so that I would stop traveling, spend more time at home, and pay attention to the opportunities among entrepreneurs in my own geographic region. And I honestly cut off all of my clients all at once. It reduced my travel incredibly. And with that mind shift, it took us a little bit of time to rebuild, but I'm happy to tell you that in 2018, we brought in more revenue in our business in the history of it.
Wow, that's great. And I think what's an interesting piece about that is that you're talking about it. Most of us understand it starts with the mind shift. And then what happened, though, is that you actually took action. You actually ended contracts with clients. You actually started to focus on, okay, what is here locally? Because obviously travel takes a lot of our time. And I love that you just were, you just really, it sounds like you just hit a point where you saw this lifestyle is just not really making me as happy as I thought it was. And ultimately, once you were more true to your vision, looked at the mindset and then took action on it, then you were able to restructure and create the business that really works for your schedule and for your pocketbook.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I often tell entrepreneurial leaders now that transformation is an act of courage, right? Because you can know, hey, I need to change some things, but the courage to act on those changes,
right?
And where our energy goes, energy flows. And so as I am able to transform my thinking, put those things into action, then I can expect that the seeds of those actions will produce a harvest down the road for me.
Right. That's great. Now, you teach strategy to clients and how they can scale their business. How do you help them determine what those priorities are?
Well, first of all, I love coming alongside entrepreneurs and business leaders to help affirm their intuition. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that have great ideas, great concepts, great intuition, but we sometimes live in such isolation, we don't know how to trust even ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes having an outside voice that isn't necessarily, I'm not necessarily saying, hey, let me tell you something you've never thought of. Normally I'm there to say, dang, dude, that's a great idea. Wow, I can't believe, we need more women operating at that level, whatever that might be, to be able to say, hey, take that to another step and be able to provide that affirmation. But ultimately, when we're helping prioritize, I do think for me, two words that matter a lot when I come alongside an entrepreneur is growth and results. Whatever we're doing to prioritize in our business, what is it going to do to help us grow and help us get our results? Not try to keep up with another business, not try to reach some unreasonable expectation, but to identify what results you're really searching for. Mm-hmm. And let's put a strategy that's not on a piece of paper that you're going to stick in a drawer somewhere or put in a file on your computer and never read again, mm-hmm. but something that will actually give you traction. And here's one of the things I love to help my clients do, and that is, what can we do to run your business 90 days at a time to get the growth and results you're looking for? And from that conversation, the priorities will rise to the top, and then we simply have to identify them and commit to acting on them.
Great. I love that. Now, some women, well, some people, but especially women,
Sure.
feel like they can only make a certain amount of money. And we're talking, this is the Wealth Warrior Summit. We're not just talking about, obviously, wherever you're at, you're always growing and working toward making more money in your business generally, or at least creating the ideal lifestyle and income that match what your desire is. But when it comes to millions of dollars in businesses, I think a lot of people think, wow, that's too much money. And they get a little panicked and they kind of put the wheels on in terms of how big they can grow. So how do you recommend getting past those barriers?
Well, one, here's one of my little phrases I love to use again. I apparently have a few of them. I've said that like 3 times. Right? One of my favorite phrases. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. I think we must be intentional about spending time around people that will challenge our assumptions and cause us to think things differently. And that can come in a variety of settings. Now, that's not me saying, hey, you got to eliminate all your friends and your family. But we must find intentional connections and communication to help us do that better. And I think when we struggle, and I meet people all the time. They'll tell me, I want to make this amount of money, but then they become their own obstacles. They become their own roadblocks to growth. And there is a lot of vulnerability wrapped up around wealth and finances. And let's be honest, it's a very vulnerable conversation to say, wow, I attach my worthiness to my my self-worth, attaching it to my net worth, right? That's the phrase that we hear a lot of people use. And I often say, if people who say they don't struggle with that, I'm thinking, well, one, either you're not telling me the truth or you're very unique. Because I think most people have to overcome that mindset at somewhere in their life. And we really must do some internal work to help us have a greater outward work.
So, so in terms of like, if I felt like, wow, if I scaled my business to multi-millions and I thought, wow, that's just too much, that's too big, it's more than I can handle. It sounds like the barriers that how I would overcome the barriers would be by really looking at what's stopping me and then just stepping forward.
Yeah, I think we have to understand, well, what am I telling myself on why that is? And am I challenging those assumptions that are inside of me? And what I have found is that the less I'm attaching a monetary value to my self-value, honestly, the more wealth I'm attracting, right? I'm almost repelling it when I attach this fact. I'll remember when probably 20 years ago, I was offered a job where they didn't make me an offer of the salary. They asked me what salary I wanted. Oh, Tamar, I'm here to tell you that I struggled for weeks, trying to attach what would have been a reasonable expectation that I should ask for on what my own worthiness was and how I thought they valued me. I mean, those stories in my head were totally disruptive, and I really had to have some good conversations. I remember having them. I was in Virginia Beach at the time at a conference, sitting down at a table with somebody talking about the issue, and really, because I really believe our lives and our organizations are transformed one conversation at a time. And I have to have those types of conversations around self-worth, the barriers that are keeping me from growing my business. I need to have those conversations with other people, because if I'm only having those conversations with myself, I'm in trouble. Mm-hmm. And so those conversations make a big deal. And so I think really, if you're struggling with, do I really want to grow this business? Now, there's a difference between if I want to have a lifestyle or a demand on my time, right, that is required with growth. I think that's a reasonable conversation. But I never want to keep my business from growing financially because I don't feel I'm worthy, I deserve it, or I'm concerned what other people will think.
Right. So in other words, there's a separation in terms of, and that also, it sounds like, and I think that's worked for me too, in terms of, scaling my own wealth, my personal wealth, is by starting to separate, what I wanted for my life and what money would do for me in my life versus, what do people think of me, whether I have more money or don't have money. And I think that's a great distinction. I like that, drawing that line, that would be a great way to kind of approach it, to just look at, what is it that you want? And then instead of getting into the psychology of, oh, wow, that's a lot, or what will people think of me, or that's a lot of responsibility once I have money, is to actually separate them and just decide, this is what I want. Okay, now what is there to do? And then there's my work, which is that, all of us are whole, complete, and perfect just as we are. And it's just getting to that place where we start where we are as human beings and then grow from there.
Yeah, absolutely. See money as a tool, right? Money is a tool. And so if I am clear on what I'm wanting to accomplish, then now that tool is able, whether that's income, that's my household is able to accomplish what it wants to, or I'm looking for legacy income to be able to take on the next generation and maybe even the generation after that, or I'm wanting to impact my community. I often have business owners that will say to me that are doing quite well for themselves, companies that are in millions of dollars. I'm like, man, I really wish I really have a passion to make a difference. I need to figure out how I can do that. I said, whoa, time out. You have 20 employees in this office right now that they're paying for their mortgages because of your vision of entrepreneurism, and they're sending their kids to college, and they have health insurance and they're able to take care of their children when they need that surgery. I mean, you're making a huge impact. Don't minimize your entrepreneurial impact on society.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's one of the things in terms of building the company that I have now and wanting to scale it with several employees and a large team, is that impact that I realize how you can afford to support employees and have them create a financial security for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Now, this is a great segue into, how do you manage the pieces of income that come in so that you have enough for all the facets, the operational expenses, the employees, the teams, the taxes. So you've adopted the profit first method of organizing your finances. Can you explain in a nutshell what that is, and why do you think it's so effective for business owners?
Well, one, it's simple, and I always find that it's the simple things that confound the wise, right? And that when we can take complex things and make them simple, great things happen in our companies. And most people operate that. If I was to say, what is your revenue building model in your business, you would know what that is. We may ask that a couple of different ways, but at the end of the day, I'm asking, what is your sales system, right? Because whatever product or service I'm delivering to the world, I have to sell it. And when I sell it, I create revenue. If I would say to somebody, what is your expense plan in your business? Well, most people understand what a budget is, right? I know again, based on personalities, we may operate a budget quite differently on some of us, but most people understand that I create revenue through sales. I manage expenses through a budget. If I ask most entrepreneurs, what is your profit plan? Most would be like, what? Huh? What are you talking about? And most would just say, well, my profit is a simple equation. It's my revenue minus my expenses and whatever's left over. And what I love about Profit First is they're changing that equation. Instead of saying revenue minus expenses equals profit, we say revenue minus profit equals expenses. Mm-hmm. And again, I know we're speaking verbally, so we don't have a graphic to demonstrate that subtle difference. But just in that subtle difference of the equation, it has to you must then determine, how will I operate differently to position myself for a profitable business. One of the phrases in Profit First that I love and just lean in on is that profit is the reward to you for running your business. Mm-hmm. It's not being busier. It's not having all the other things. It's profit. And so really it's about allocation and fund management. There's a whole other conversation we could have with that. But really, I love coming alongside entrepreneurs and saying, let's plan how we allocate your funds, not just where it goes, but when we even do it. And what is a strategy in place so that if you're transitioning, things don't happen overnight, but what could things be like 6 months from now, a year from now, 18 to 24 months from now? How fundamentally different could your business be by being a better manager of the funds and the revenue that comes in so that you truly have legacy transforming profit?
Right. And for those of the audience that's watching that doesn't know, Profit First is a book written by Mike Michalowicz. Yep. And it's very well known, and a lot of entrepreneurs and people that are in the business space or in the tax accounting space have become profit first professionals. Yes. where they share their expertise. So one of the big facets is, making sure that you pay yourself a percentage first so that you always are getting a reward in your business. And then there's different allocations for your operations, your taxes, your personal expenses, and your profit. And so that's a great way to start, even just from a basic, if you don't get the book, if you don't hire a professional, Profit First professional, to even start thinking about just when you get paid every time to start putting away a percentage in Profit First. They recommend 50% for operation expenses. You can do it however you want. The idea is that you want to make sure that you have money put away all the time for profit and for taxes and for operational expenses. And it's a great way to allocate. So
yeah, that's absolutely. And many people will say, hey, can I just do that with one bank account? And there is, and what we try to do is come alongside to help see the wisdom of separating checking and separating checking accounts and savings accounts, and having those 5 to 7 accounts that you would allocate funds and moving them through to be able to position yourself so that you have because most people, even if they do have a profit, they get a P&L at the end of the year and they're like, hey, we made a profit. And the question is, well, where's the money? Well, you spent it. But I thought I made a profit, right? And so navigating through that and actually having fund management, allocated accounts to put that in really is a game changer in business.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, good. So so people can definitely take away starting to look at all those pieces and look at Profit First and learn more about it, and or talk to a Profit First professional like yourself. Now, as a business owner, once you have a financial system in place, obviously Profit First is just one system. There's a million types. The idea is just that you want to have allocation over your funds, so that at the end of the year when you get the P&L, you're not like, where's the money? And right. Then P&Ls should be done every month, or at least there's certain tracking that needs to happen. But the bottom line is that you want to have you have a sense over the income coming in and the income going out. So how do you manage all the moving parts to make sure that your personal finances are managed successfully?
Yeah, so I think it's that for the successful entrepreneur that they see even their personal finances as an extension of that business. And, the way that we plan to be successful in our businesses, I think we have to plan to be successful in our personal lives. Again, if profit is the reward, I want to be bold enough to say that I want to live a life that demonstrates I'm living the reward. Again, it doesn't mean I'm necessarily being extravagant, but my wife, for many years, I told you I was a workaholic. People would say, what kind of hobby do you have? I was like, I don't have any hobbies. I just work. It's finally triggered for me over the past couple of years. my hobby is I like to buy tickets. I like to go to sporting events. I like to go to concerts. I like to go to Broadway shows. I want to take care of managing my personal finances in an intentional and purposeful way. But I also want to simply enjoy life. I want to enjoy my family. I want to be able to bless my son and his children and his family. I want to be able to bless my parents who are still with us and be able to care for them in their as they begin to age. I live in Greenville, South Carolina, and Pink was in concert in Charlotte this past weekend, and I bought tickets. I was the 52-year-old fat middle-aged bald man at the Pink concert. But I loved every moment, and I was full of gratitude because the business that I have allowed me the personal finances to just enjoy a weekend with my wife away at something like that. And so planning, but just reward yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I love that. And it leads so well into my last question, my final question, which is, what does financial freedom mean for you?
Yeah. Well, security is one of those words that I think oftentimes that we are seeking when it comes to finances, even if we don't know that's the word, where we want security in our family. And I think ultimately for me, what it means for me, and again, we talk about freedom too, right? Freedom is one of those words. But for me, I simply want to have pleasure with my family and my closest friends. And I want to be able to just enjoy life. Again, not crazy extravagant, but to be able to enjoy the here and now. And I don't want to live in fear of economic insecurity. I want to live in a time in my life when I am blessed to be a blessing. And I can have an opportunity to impact others around me because of the efforts of my business. And when I have that, then I get to sleep really, really well. I get to enjoy life, and I get to enjoy my family and friends at a high level.
That's great, because and hearing that is that that joy and going to the Pink concert and spending time with your wife has become a priority for you, where that's something that you allocate funds for, but then you also, it sounds like, are thinking of the bigger picture in terms of being able to long term, in terms of financial freedom, having that stability, having a retirement, being able to not spoil the grandkids. What do we say? Bless the grandkids.
Yeah.
Bless them.
Absolutely. What is it? I don't know if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, but what's one of his favorite sayings is, if you live like nobody else, you get to live like nobody else. And I think part of that is that when we position ourselves financially to be able to say, I am able to bring security into our home, that I am able to bring security into the lives of the people around me. The future is uncertain, right? And sometimes I will be stricken just like anybody else with the uncertainty of the future, and will we have enough money to do the things we need to do in the future, prepare, how long am I going to live, right? Will I have enough money for that? But I think when you have, going back to the beginning of our conversation, is that when I live with a mindset of abundance, then here's what I know, that if I am wise with my efforts today, there will always be enough for whatever's coming for tomorrow. And that is what abundance and wealth really brings to me. And money is just a tool. And I have confidence that the future will be stable and it will be secure.
Right. And I love that. And I love also the way that you use that, but then I know that you allocate your funds. You look at, even when you go to the concert, you have a savings account. So you keep things in balance, which is really one thing that I really want to make sure that everybody understands, that while we're enjoying and while we're feeling abundant, is that there's also that piece of making sure that we allocate the funds for, for our financial freedom long term, not just
Yeah,
for.
there is a management side of this, right? Obviously, I love inspiration. I love high level thinking. But at the end of the day, there's a plan, right? And I won't bore everybody here, but I have my spreadsheets, right? And I know exactly where every dollar is going. And and both in my personal, like I see people today, and I know this is a little bit on a different road, but like I'll talk to people today, like in business, I use QuickBooks, but in my personal life, I use Quicken. And I'll tell people, like, and they'll hear me talk about reconciling our accounts. And I'm like, I reconcile my personal accounts. Most people just live like, well, mobile, like I get my phone out, get my picture here, I'm getting my phone out, and whatever's in my bank account is what I can do today, right? And I don't see that as proper planning. I think there has to be true management of our finances, that we are able to allocate funds in the right way, make really good decisions, and be able to live practical lives as well. And so always have a plan, because if you don't, my thing is, it's okay. I don't want to live that structure. And I'm thinking, listen, the only way to change a plan is to have a plan. So have plans in your life that you can adapt to when life happens.
No, that's wonderful. And, that makes sense coming from a business strategist, right? That you would also plan your all your finances out. And it doesn't have to be this laborious chore. Like you said, you just have a spreadsheet for some things. But the idea is just that you have accountability so that you can manage it and you have a plan. So I love that. Now, you have been generous enough to share share a gift. And it's the Thrive Matrix, and it's valued at $97. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so having the opportunity to spend a lot of time around entrepreneurs, we've adapted a couple of different tools that I've used through the year. You've heard me talk about how do we develop strategy around a desire for growth and getting results. But one of the challenges that a lot of entrepreneurs have is there is so much that needs done. The question is, where do I start with all the options that are in front of me? And there's a lot of things that when people start talking about what needs to be done, we get into time management tools and things like that. And I think those are very important. But my tool is not about time management. It's around identifying and prioritizing the effort that it takes to accomplish certain tasks and projects, and the impact you think it will make in your business and life. And so we created, we took a couple different resources and we brought together the Thrive Matrix. It really asks you, so what impact will this make and what effort does it take? And when I talk about effort, I'm not just talking about the workload, but what is very natural for me to do. There are things that when the effort for me is easy. Now, we've taken a little bit of time here today. As you can tell, I'm a verbal communicator. I get energized the more we talk. Right. And when I get a chance to teach and get people to think differently, it's not laborious to me. The effort, it comes with ease. But ask me to sit down and put funnels together in a sales page and write 6 emails that are going to be dripped out to people. Like, just poke me in the eye right now. Like that.
Well, there are people that do that. That's what you hire or support for.
We hire them, right? But that impact is very hard for me. So the purpose of the Thrive Matrix is for you to evaluate what are the things that will have low effort, high impact in your life that you should be focusing on as an entrepreneur to get the growth and results that you want. And what are the things that are high effort, high impact that you probably need to have support around you to get your business going. And then everything that has low impact on the left side of the quadrant, we want to avoid or minimize in some way, shape, or form out of our efforts. And so it's a great tool that leads into some fantastic conversations on what you need to focus on to grow your business, to reach the wealth that you're desiring and the revenue goals that you have for why you started your business in the first place.
That sounds great.
And so we would just love you to just, they can download that tool. They can use that when they get it. we would be very happy to be able to offer that to them at no cost. And if they desire even a free complimentary coaching call on the other side of it, to be able to work through those things.
Great. I love that. So it's mythrivestrategies.com/free guide.
Yes.
So again, mythrivestrategies.com/free guide. Thank you so much, Bill, for your time today and your contribution to the Wealth Warrior Summit. And thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you.